Beautiful souls. Yes, it's almost Thanksgiving, one of the most beautiful times of the year. And on this one day of the year, we gorge ourselves silly on turkey and tons of delicious holiday dishes. Southern soul food made by our grandmamas, mamas, and favorite aunties. So today we're diving deep into an iconic recipe, one that some folks might have to wait all year to gather with friends and family just to eat. It's the one Southern dish you shouldn't miss this Thanksgiving: Black folks chicken and dressing.
Welcome to the Soul Food Pod, the first podcast dedicated to the history and culture around Southern soul food. I'm your host, Shonda Nicole, your go-to recipe creator for modern soul food cuisine, making life easier and more soulful, one recipe at a time. This season, I'm bringing you into my kitchen to listen to the recipe as I prepare iconic African American dishes, unveiling the secret ingredients and step-by-step instructions. You'll learn soul food culture, history, proper seasoning techniques, how to speed up traditional Southern soul food recipes, and how I efficiently use modern kitchen appliances to make your favorite traditional dishes. I'll teach you how iconic African American recipes are now easy enough for anyone to make and everyone to love.
Thanks for joining me today in the kitchen for another episode of the Soul Food Pod. Remember, you can find the link to today's recipe in this episode's description or on thesoulfoodpot.com. We're talking in extensive detail today about a Black folks chicken and dressing recipe, a cornbread dressing combined with savory soul food seasoned chicken. There's so much to unpack to make this favorite homemade Southern side dish or meal by itself specialty. So let's not wait another minute. We have an incredible listen to the recipe episode baked up for you today. Let's dig in. This recipe is an African American cornbread dressing recipe with chicken. If you're a Black person living in the South, there's a good chance you've had your fair share of chicken and dressing. Because this homemade chicken dressing is not just for Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's an all year round dish that we crave every single day. What is chicken and dressing? There's nothing like a classic savory flavor of Black folks chicken combined with a delicate cornbread dressing. Many say it's a dish that survived slavery, segregation, poverty, and everything else this country has thrown at the Black community. Cornbread dressing with the addition of shredded baked chicken. The ingredients include cooked poultry, chicken or turkey, and pro tip, you can use leftover chicken or turkey, and a flavorful Southern seasonings. Plus, homemade cornbread, sauteed celery, onion, thyme, chicken stock, and egg. A simple, delicious, hearty meal. Chicken and dressing is an African American staple that's made its way into many homes and generations nationwide. Now, this recipe, old fashioned chicken dressing, it's easy to make and has a wonderful flavor that your family will love. So, if you don't want to spend hours cooking on Thanksgiving Day, or you don't want the expensive pre made dishes at the store, make this simple, old fashioned chicken dressing. To achieve the soulful flavoring this dish is known for, you'll need more than just a few ingredients. It ain't called Black folks chicken and dressing for nothing. Y'all know we extra. You'll need the right stuff to get the best results. Let me guide you with the detailed steps to enjoy the best Thanksgiving dressing. All right, so what's the difference between Southern cornbread stuffing and dressing? Stuffing and dressing are terms for a dish made with bread, usually cornbread, in the Southern United States. Stuffing is baked inside the Thanksgiving turkey or bird during the cooking process. Dressing, on the other hand, is baked on its own and served as a side dish. Now, I should note that this recipe has a lot of steps to go with its plenty of ingredients. But no worries, I've got you with my simple, guided step-by-step instructions for your ease in perfecting this iconic recipe, whether you're a seasoned pro or a first-time beginner making this. Here's what you'll need to make homemade chicken and dressing. As far as kitchen equipment, you'll need an 8-inch cast iron skillet, an 8-inch baking dish. I like to use, optionally, the Instant Pot pressure cooker. Y'all know how I do. And of course, my Instant Pot Omni Plus oven, probably my favorite thing in the kitchen, if you couldn't already tell from previous episodes. All right, the ingredients for the cornbread, we are using the 8.5-ounce box of Jiffy Corn Muffin Mix. No apologies, we are using it. All right. And a fourth a cup of granulated sugar. You can omit this if you don't prefer sweet cornbread, but this does not make it too sweet, so I would leave it. 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 3 ounces of whipped cream cheese, and I say whipped because it's already softened for you and ready to go, and 4 ounces of heavy whipping cream. Now, want to make your cornbread from scratch? If you just can't stomach that box of Jiffy cornbread mix and you are old school Southern, check out this Black Folks chicken and dressing recipe on the soulfoodpot.com for my step-by-step instructions on homemade cornbread from scratch.
Woohoo!
All right, here are the instructions for this cornbread recipe. You want to preheat the oven to bake at 350 degrees for 10 minutes, although you may not use all this time because you're just going to be melting the butter right now. Place the 4 tablespoons of butter in an 8-inch skillet and melt in the oven for approximately 5 minutes. While the butter is melting, combine the cornbread mix. We're using Jiffy brand, like I said. You're going to combine it with sugar, cream cheese, and the heavy cream in a medium-sized mixing bowl. Pour the melted butter from the skillet into the mixing bowl and mix all the ingredients. In this step, I use my KitchenAid stand mixer to achieve the smoothest mix ever. Then you pour the cornbread mixture into the skillet. Bake at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes, and when the baking has finished, allow the cornbread to cool for approximately 10 minutes. Then cut the bread lengthwise and then across into 1-inch bread cubes and set that aside. Now here are the ingredients for the cornbread dressing. 1/4 cup of unsalted butter, and then separate 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter, 1 cup of yellow onion diced, 1 cup of celery diced, 1 tablespoon of thyme, you could use fresh or dried, 1 tablespoon of rosemary, again, either fresh or dried, 1 teaspoon of sage, ground sage, 1/4 a cup of parsley, finely chopped, a half a cup of chicken stock or chicken broth, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1 large egg, and 8 ounces of skinless cooked chicken thighs or other poultry dark meat shredded. Now, the instructions for the baked chicken with dressing. Start by greasing an 8-inch or similar sized baking dish, then transfer the set aside cornbread cubes to the pre-greased dish, and then set aside the cornbread cubes. Remove the lid from the Instant Pot and turn on the saute setting for 8 minutes, or you can saute this on the stovetop if you're not using the Instant Pot. With the lid off, melt 1/4 cup of butter. Add the chopped onion, celery, thyme, rosemary, and sage, and stir to coat the vegetables in the herbs and melted butter, then saute them until they soften and are slightly brown. Add the shredded chicken, chicken stock, salt, and pepper to the inner pot simmer and stir to combine. Remove the chicken and herb mixture from the heat and set them aside. Allow the mixture to cool to the touch so that it can be mixed with the egg. You want it cool because you don't want the egg to cook from the residual heat and make scrambled eggs. We don't need scrambled for this recipe. While the herbs are cooling off, beat the egg with the parsley in a medium-sized bowl. Pour the egg and parsley mixture over the cubed cornbread in the set-aside baking dish and gently, and I say gently, fold in the mixture evenly with the bread cubes. Then pour the cooled chicken and herb mixture into the cornbread and egg mixture, evenly distributing with your pour. Cut the 1 tablespoon of butter into small pats and place them on top of the dressing. Cover the baking dish with the foil and bake at 350 degrees for 35 minutes in the conventional oven. If you're using the Instant Pot Omni Plus oven, you can bake for 30 minutes instead. It's always a little bit faster with that small convection oven. Now uncover and bake until golden. That's 10 to 15 more minutes. 10 minutes if you're using the Omni Plus oven, 15 if you're using the regular conventional oven. And then serve this baked chicken and dressing recipe warm and enjoy. Optional, serve it with gravy on top. Now, when it comes to Southern chicken and dressing, there's a reason why it's a holiday tradition. It's tender, moist, and packed full of flavor, and really, there's just nothing quite like it. And while lots of homemade Southern dressing recipes have weighed in on this debate, We're sure that ours here trumps them all. Now, what do you serve with this delicious chicken and dressing recipe? Whether it's Thanksgiving or not, chicken and dressing is usually served for Sunday dinner with mashed potatoes, cornbread, or collard greens. And chicken and dressing is also completely capable of holding its own as a casserole meal all by itself. Okay, now, beautiful souls, here are my baked chicken and dressing pro tips. So, people often ask, why is my cornbread dressing mushy? Well, when adding ingredients to mix the cube cornbread, gently, and again, I say gently, fold in the ingredients. Try not to overwork the cornbread so it doesn't break down, which could cause the dressing to have a mushy texture. You don't want that. The dressing before it's baked should be moist, but not watery or gummy. If you find that your stuffing is too wet, you can add a few slices of cubed honey wheat bread to soak up the extra liquid. You could add any bread. Honey wheat is just my favorite, and I always think it's just a great pairing if you've already used cornbread, which is slightly sweet. Now, how do you fix dry stuffing? You can fix dry stuffing with a few tablespoons of melted butter, chicken stock, or chicken broth. And what kind of chicken do you use for this recipe? Well, I prefer darker chicken meat for this recipe, like chicken thighs, because it absorbs the flavors best. However, you could also use white chicken meat if you prefer, like chicken breast. Whether baked chicken breast, fried chicken, or air fryer chicken, it's all up to you, and it all tastes good. Now, can you use Jiffy cornbread mix? I am going over this because this is always a hot topic of discussion, so I am going over it again. So, don't know what ingredient to use to make cornbread homemade from scratch? Then I highly recommend you give yourself some grace and use the Jiffy Corn Muffin Mix to yield a quick and easy chicken dressing. A delicious dish that everyone will love for sure, with no sacrifice using the box mix to the authentic Southern soul food flavors this Black folks chicken and dressing recipe is already known for. Okay, beautiful souls, here are your frequently asked questions about how to make Black folks chicken and dressing. Because this recipe has many steps, from saute to set aside, and then a two-step cover uncover baking process. It's no surprise that there are quite a few FAQs. All right, let's dive into them. Why do you put eggs in dressing, you ask? The answer is simple. Eggs are a great binder. Eggs hold together the cornbread, celery, onion, and other seasonings in the cornbread dressing to create a flavorful dish that can be enjoyed at any time of year. You ask, should dressing be covered while cooking? Yes. Cover with foil and bake for 30 to 35 minutes, then remove the foil and bake uncovered until golden brown, another 10 to 15 minutes. Is it possible to freeze the chicken and dressing? Absolutely. Do you struggle with staying consistent at meal prepping? Then freezing this meal is a great way to save time. To freeze it, place the prepared dish, baked or not, in an airtight container, and you can freeze and you can keep it frozen for up to 3 months or 90 days. If you're doing this and it's not baked, then of course you take it out and you bake it. Otherwise, if it's already a pre-made chicken and dressing, then you just take it out from the freezer, heat it up, serve, and enjoy. Now, is it possible to make chicken southern cornbread dressing ahead of time? Yes, you can assemble the whole dish one day before your event and then tightly cover it. Place it in the refrigerator unbaked. Let it thaw, and when you're ready to bake, well, I guess it wouldn't thaw, but take it out. And when you're ready to bake, just bake directed as in the recipe instructions. Now, why do you need stale cornbread, you may ask? Because this recipe is often, uh, sorry, pausing and re-saying that again. Why do you need stale cornbread? Some people prefer their dressing drier and crunchier. In this case, cornbread that is at least a day old up to almost stale is recommended. Ensure the cornbread is completely dry before adding it to the casserole dish if you're trying to achieve a crunchy dressing. To make cornbread stale, place the bread cubes in a large plastic bag with the seal open, or let it set uncovered overnight at room temperature. When the cubed cornbread is dry enough, it's good to use for dressing or stuffing with more of a crunch. You can now add it into the casserole dish with the remaining ingredients and bake as usual. Now, why should you soften onions and celery in cornbread dressing? People always ask this another way, do you have to soften the onions and celery? It's best to soften both ingredients because otherwise they will release too much liquid when heated, which can make cornbread dressing watery or slimy. And again, we do not want that. So in this recipe, it's already taken care of for you. The onions and celery will soften as they're sauteed. You can even use caramelized onions as a substitute if you want even sweeter taste in your cornbread dressing. How do you store the leftovers for this recipe? Refrigerate chicken and dressing leftovers in an airtight container or cover with plastic wrap for up to 3 days. And do you love boiled eggs in dressing, or do you put bell peppers in yours? Well, you can always make this Southern dressing recipe your own, and I always encourage you to do that. For example, some households add rotisserie chicken, chicken salad, poultry seasoning, garlic powder, ranch dressing mix, sweet pickle, diced bell pepper, and even chopped boiled egg to this recipe. Some people top this stuffing mix with a giblet gravy, shredded cheese, or sour cream. So, however you like to enjoy it. Now, what if you want to add oysters? My favorite. Do you want oysters instead of chicken for this recipe? Then, yes, it's a good idea to first omit the chicken. Instead, add the oysters during the step where you combine the cornbread and the herb mixture. Old fashioned oyster dressing is another favorite Southern recipe, and you can get the full recipe for that on the soulfoodpot.com, of course. Now, what size cast iron skillet is recommended for cornbread? To cook the cornbread, I always suggest an 8-inch medium sized skillet. It works best. And you ask, beautiful souls, can this be made as individual muffins in a muffin pan? Always the cutest idea, and yes, it's so possible. The best part about making this dish in individual muffins instead of a large pan is that you can customize the toppings for each person. So fun. Now, if you use a box cornbread mix, we're going here again. How much or how many boxes do you use? It's simple. One Jiffy corn muffin mix, which is 8.5 ounces, which is just a little more than 1 cup. All right, beautiful souls, what do you think of this Black folks chicken and dressing recipe? It'll leave everyone happy at the dinner table, I promise. And my step-by-step instructions make this dish super easy to make, which is always a big win, especially during the busy holiday season. Does your family have a dressing or stuffing recipe that is passed down from one generation table to the next? Head to the comments and tell me about it. And until next time, beautiful souls, remember that food for the body is not enough. There must be food for the soul. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Soul Food Pod. Did you enjoy today's conversation and recipe? If you want more easy to make soul food recipes and Southern food for the soul, then follow me for ideas that make your life easier plus more soulful. Subscribe here to the Soul Food Pod and subscribe to my food blog, thesoulfoodpot.com. On the Instagrams, follow me at Shonda Nicole. Have you had today's recipe? Would you make it? Comment below and let me know. And make sure you rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe for all the soul food.